Okay, guys, welcome to the Legion Report podcast, season 3 now, episode 2. This one is our view on nutrition and sleep. Before we get started, I'd just like to say that we could probably fill a whole season with this topic because there's so much to cover. But we're just going to give you a brief talk about what we feel is the right thing to do. We're no experts, but this is just our view and what we believe in. So I'm Ray Farrow.
And I'm Danny Hayter. Hope we're all well. Enjoying lockdown. As Ray mentioned, we're not experts, but we're going to talk to you around our own experiences, which I think it is sometimes you don't hear too much about. You see a lot of people talking about the right things and the right way of doing stuff, but maybe they don't use those types of methods themselves. So we did have an expert on our podcast, Laura Kelly, who done a fantastic talk around nutrition from an expert view and from a qualified view, I guess. But we're going to talk to you around some of the findings from our clients and from ourselves. So really look forward to this, Ray. And we try not to go on too long because, like you say, we could go on. There's so much on nutrition. I mean, even let's say.
Oh yeah, and like we said just before we started, it's a bit of a minefield as well. So we said before that it can be a bit of a religion kind of topic, or should we say?
Yeah.
Like me,
That's probably a good place to start, actually.
Yeah, I reckon so. Yeah.
Religion, yeah. So you said to me before we started that you can see nutrition as as people when it comes to, there's so many different methods, isn't there, for ways of eating, even things like nutrition plans, diets, all that type of stuff. There's so many things that people use and don't use that it does become a religion. So yeah, fill us in on that, Ray, because I thought that was a really good point you made before we actually came on air. We started recording.
Yeah, like I say, well, first, there's so many, like we just said. Then there's so many different ways you can skin a cat, and so many different things that can that work. Everything work. Things work differently for different people, I think, and we, like we say, I've tried many different diets, different plans, because I like to try things before I will give it to a client, I'll give it to a friend. So I've done paleo, I've done zone, I've done carb backloading, I've done low carbs, I've done intermittent fasting, I've done the RP diet, the Renaissance periodization for performance. I've tried loads and loads of different ways. And like I say, when we talk about the religion side of things, when you get quite good results from something that fits well with you, like a way of eating, like intermittent fasting, and I'll talk about it in a bit. That's one I really have like a lot of time for, and it's worked well with me and clients. You get a biased view on that, you can't help it. That's just the way it works for you. So, I think that's basically where we were what we were chatting about before.
Yeah.
Be a little bit biased to one way.
I think that's it. I think if you are seeing a specific result in something, you tend to go, okay, well, cool, this is me. I think this is where we find a lot of issue in, and we get onto this later on around the health of maybe the public in terms from a UK sense, and my view on that, and some of the accountability parts. But I think what people tend to do is go, we all hear it, I've tried everything, and I can't get my head around anything. And I think you can sort of understand that for a lot of people, because there's a lot of people don't have there's not, although there is out there a lot of knowledge when it comes to things like social media now. And again, it's another thing I want to touch on later on, because I think social media is actually it is probably one of the positive parts of social media, alongside maybe a 50 sort of split with the negative because of the plans of things that people sell and the silly pills that people sell. But I think once you've found something, like you say, that really works for you, it does, like you say, we said it before we came on. If you see God, you're going to start believing in that, that's sort of what we're, in a roundabout way is the analogy we're sort of trying to get at here, is that if this is starting, if you're seeing abs, let's use abs as our God. You'll start to see abs, you're going to start to go, "Oh, this is working for me." um, there's lots of different things out there. I think my view, and you're going to talk about intermittent fasting. I'm going to talk a little bit about periodization because that's our own experiences.
Yeah,
Um, but I think if you are looking to, and those we've actually tested those things based on relevance to our own personal goals, whether it's a training goal, whether it's a weight gain or loss goal. Um, we've looked at this, but ultimately it's around having that deficit of calories, and having that, making sure that we've got a deficit in. And I think that's where we're going to start to counting your calories and counting macros starts to become a really good habit to have. And again, we'll get onto that in a minute. So talk to us a little bit, Ray, about your findings with so we've been what, 4 weeks now, I think, maybe just over
oh, what in
4 weeks
our
of
yeah,
our experiment. Yeah.
yes. Well, this really what we wanted to do in the gym itself. Obviously, we've gone into lockdown, so that makes it hard to keep people motivated, to keep people. Um, so the progress. So people find that they're going to get weaker or whatever. Negative side of things are going to come down because obviously you're not lifting heavy, you're not doing the strength side of things. So we wanted to pick something that we could do in lockdown that guys would come out better. That we would, would get some improvement. Nutrition was a good one to hit on because obviously everyone had that Christmas period where we all do overeat, and we were pretty much in tier 4 when we went through it, and we all went
Yeah.
lockdown before everyone else. So the fact that a lot of people, myself included, we were overeating, comfort eating, Christmas time. So we wanted to have an impact on that and try to improve people's way of eating, and try a few things out. So I wanted to get the guys kind of into intermittent fasting, but not quite there yet. We wanted to try something else out first, which was a low carb, high fat, high protein diet, and we tried that. We did that, yeah, for about 3 weeks.
Yeah.
We dropped their carbs down to about 100 grams, and we just picked the fats and the protein up to not match their calories, but just be just below it. So the idea that they would have a gradual weight loss rather than a massive weight loss that would sort of be counterproductive. So we wanted them to still lose weight, but gradually.
Yeah.
I always treat nutrition. I treat pretty much everything in life a bit like a strength program. So a gradual, progressive, improvement, overload.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Gradually. Everything
Yeah.
should be gradually, and that's what we did really. But with the focus of having my overall view, they didn't know this obviously, and they will do. They do start to now. Was have a few phases. So phase 1 would be the low carb, lose a bit of body fat sort of phase, and then phase 2 will go into intermittent fasting. We'll start, if they still wanted to lose weight, then we'll use it as a weight loss,
Yeah.
fat loss. If they didn't, we will use it as health, and then we start to move into phase 3, which will be the maintenance for life sort of phase, and that's where we're hoping for them to go
Yeah.
in the next month or two. Yeah.
So you've been doing this as well.
Yeah,
How
yeah.
have you? What are your thoughts around and your sort of, I wouldn't say your results because it's not really about that.
No.
It's not about doing something for 4 weeks and go, "Hey, look at this, right? Let's get back on the after eights." It's sort of more.
Well, yeah, like I say,
You know,
we are looking
what
to
you
try
find at the moment.
try to go into going into the low carb, high fat. So I did that for 3 weeks. I lost about 2 kilos, and then I obviously lost quite a bit off my waist and stuff like that. But what I found was like I don't like it as well, and I know people will be shouting out straight away. Not having a balanced diet, so taking out a macronutrient, I don't think that's an overall or a lifetime plan. Do you know what I mean? It was literally just to get me to a certain weight,
Yeah.
to then add it back in slowly. Do you
Yeah.
know what I mean? I am a big believer in balance and to balance that, your macronutrients out correctly. You know what I mean? Not just take one away. It's good for weight loss, but it's not good for life. So what I found was I'm not particularly a person who enjoys having a lot of fat in their diet, and I didn't really enjoy it that much, if I'm honest. But I knew it's just short term. So then gone the last week or so, I've gone back into intermittent fasting, bring my carbs up, bring my fats down to sort of balance it out.
Yeah.
And now I feel much better on the intermittent fasting side.
So just on that, so I think this is quite an important point. So your intermittent fasting, just give us a quick. So there's a lot of people that go, oh, okay, well, intermittent fasting is, you're not eating breakfast, yeah,
Yeah.
but you're still eating a relevant amount of calories, yeah. So you're not dropping a huge amount of calories out of that. So there's a lot more around intermittent fasting that you've certainly that you've found that's actually more than just going, well, I'm not just skipping a meal. It's more, it's not all just around calorie deficit, is what I'm trying
No.
to sort of say.
No. And I know there'll probably be some people out there that will argue the toss for this, but in my experience, I've been on and off intermittent fasting for about seven years now, like 7.5 years sort of thing, before I opened the gym. And I've used it with our transformation course for about 4 years now with different clients. So good fast, probably about a good, I've tried it on about 200 clients, but probably whittled that down. If you say 50% of them did it properly, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it is quite hard to stick to, and like we said, it's not for everyone. But the findings I find that yes, you lose weight, but you lose a lot of body fat. It does seem to target the areas where you find it hard to lose, which is love handles and hips and stuff, and waist. But what I have found, like on health benefits side of things, and this is what I tried. I said to you a little while ago, look, that I tried it a couple of years. It was about a year ago, I think. Because look, I'm on and off it. Because I'll explain why that is in a minute. But I tried just fasting twice a week about a year ago, seeing how that would affect. But before I did it, I tested my bloods. I had my bloods test, mainly just for testosterone, because I know at my age it gets quite low.
Yeah.
Once you go from 35 onwards. And so I tested my testosterone levels. They were quite low, a little bit lower than it should be for my age, which was, didn't make me feel too good. So I just fasted twice a week, 1:16:8 and 1:20:4. So, and I did that for 3 months, and then I had my bloods tested again, and I found, well, didn't find, but the results were that my testosterone levels had doubled. So I'm back up higher than what it should have been for my age. So it was, that's the only thing I tested. I did lose a little bit of body weight, but not much, a little bit of body fat, but I was already roughly around about the sort of weight I wanted to be. So, and I was making sure that I was eating the amount of calories I should be eating. So I was quite surprised with that, that finding. I had heard it before. I have heard it. So it helps your growth hormone double. testosterone levels and blood pressure come down. I've seen it with blood pressure before. With quite a few of my clients who are older that had high blood pressure when we got them on the intermittent fast. Within 4 weeks, they've had to come off their tablets, which has been amazing.
Yeah, that's an interesting finding. Yeah.
One thing I have found, and it happens to me every time I go back onto the intermittent fast, which is something I mentioned to you before. I wasn't sure about mentioning it, but I don't know if this is.
I think I know what you get it.
Any relevant.
Yeah, fuck it, sell it.
Yeah. We're about 3 or 4 days after I've started getting into the fast, and say a week, I normally find that I start waking up with a bit of what's the story, morning glory. Without saying it out loud. But yeah, which is,
Oasis.
When you get a bit of Oasis playing in your ear, no. When you get older, guys, some of the guys, you young lads won't understand, but when you get older, those sort of things go out your mind, and you don't sort of see that side of the thing again, that side of the coin for, I don't know. But anyway, when I fast, I find that does start to, happen.
Yeah.
I don't know why that is.
Which I guess is a
maybe that's
a proof of testosterone levels increasing, right?
Maybe it is. Yeah, I don't know.
So, but that's it's interesting, and I've done a little bit of intermittent fasting. Unfortunately for me, it was just too much of a drop for me in terms of people going probably go, oh, you bastard, too much. It was too much of a drop for me in terms of my weight.
Yeah.
So I have to be really very careful in terms of what I drop. But no, it's really interesting that it's not just, and I think, like you say, there's a lot of people out there that go, oh, you're just skipping breakfast, mate. Stop being a bell end. But actually, there's a lot more to it. And I think that's what I think doesn't really get pushed out. That one, there's some benefits from a weight perspective. So if you really are looking to lose a little bit of weight, and like you say, it's a good way to, it's not a lifestyle, but it's a way just to get things moving, if you like, say like after Christmas. But also there's a lot of health benefits to it that you just mentioned there, that can really
like I say, if you think about it logically, you think about even if you did it once or twice a week, that's what when I talk about with my clients, if they just want to do it for health, that's what I recommend, once or twice a week.
Sure.
You think about giving your gut, you're giving your stomach, you're giving everything a break.
Yeah.
Okay. You think about it, giving it that extra break. All right, it gets 8 hours when you're asleep, but if all you're doing is extending it a little bit longer. Okay. If you're doing that, either side, yeah. So if you're doing that, you can just think about having a rest day. Do you know what I mean? From training, the benefits you get from that alone. So this is almost giving your stomach and you're giving your body a chance to rest a little bit more. So instead of constantly
processing,
constantly building new cells, it gets chance to regenerate old cells and get rid of what it doesn't need. And I think that's why it has an effect on your hormones and your growth hormone and your testosterone levels. It gives time to regenerate old cells. Like you say, on the downside of things, there is obviously a downside of things of everything. I found that I lose quite a bit of weight when I'm doing it all the way through. I find that I lose up my face. A lot of people say it to me, oh God, you're right, So yeah, there is that. And that's why I've started. I'm just going to try something out now that I've seen from Mark Bell. Mark Bell's he's quite popular in the strength and conditioning field. Powerlifter, invented the slingshot. Goes on. He's quite into. You should see the shape of him at the moment. It's unbelievable. But he's gone, I think, extreme. But everyone's different. So I'm not knocking the guy. But he does what he calls a protein sparing modified fasting. I don't know what and what he does is basically it's not fasting because he's still bringing in calories, but he has protein within his fast window.
Okay.
And that's something that because he reckons that stops the gaunt basically. So that's what I'm trying now. I'm trialing the 5 and 2. So five days of the week I'm fasting. 2
Yeah.
days I'm fasting with the added protein and a little bit of fat in that window.
Okay.
Because the thing I find with I love the way I feel when I'm fast. I'm loving it. I love
Yeah.
fasting. But the problem is I lose too much weight and I lose it in my face. And then I go off it. That's why I've always done fasting. That's why I say I've done it for 7.5 years on and off. Because I
Yeah.
get to a
Yeah.
point where I'm like, I'm losing too much now. And I go back to normal eating.
It's going
So
back to that religion thing, isn't it? Where
come
you
back,
sort of
yeah.
say, it's I love the way I feel. I love the way that it's helping me, and so I'm gonna try and do it. But like you say, you just need to be. I would say to people out there that are looking at it and thinking about it and go, actually, that could be me. I want to lose weight really quickly, and I want to wake up with a boner every day. You know what I mean? Actually, go and seek a little bit of help and make sure that you're doing the right things
They
at the right
do it fast.
time.
I think with the problem with the fitness industry, intermittent fasting is not something you can sell because you're just telling someone to just eat in a certain window. And
Yeah.
that's why I use it with a lot of clients because it's so easy to follow.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a little bit
Yeah.
of a struggle for the first 2 weeks to get into that habit,
Yeah.
but you can't sell it. Do you know what I mean?
No,
That's
no,
the
no.
problem.
It's just
Like, you've got to live
it's not a
life,
product, is it?
not
It's
product. No, it's a way of living, really.
yeah. Which
Um,
which is a good thing. So we get onto that actually. I'll talk you in a minute around some of the finds I've had with my
yeah, talk us
let's say
through. Yeah, let's have a look.
experiment, I
Talk for
guess.
you because I've
So
done Renaissance before.
yeah, so periodization renaissance, I think RP Strength put out a lot of information around this type of so for me, I've always had that so for me, weight loss, weight gain has always never really been an issue, if you like, but it's always for me been around how I have the ability to train. So whether that's whether that's me playing football, whether that's me in a gym. So being intensive and being able to really focus around my training. And I used to really struggle. So I'd go into a training session, I think, oh, why do I feel so bad? And then I'd look back that day at what I've eaten and I'd be like, that's why, because you're just not eating enough food. Like you're not eating the right things at the right time. So um, I spoke to Laura, who's on our podcast previously, Laura Kelly, and she introed me into periodization. So what I do is I eat around 60 to 70% of my carbohydrate for the day, pre and post training, to help me to build that almost like that carb load ready for me to be intensive, but two, that recovery after. And yeah, it's phenomenal for me. My training, it changes, and I think the most important thing that I've found. So I tested this in the first 2 weeks. I tested it with running. I tested it with my training because in my head I was thinking, "Wow, I'm training really well," but is that because I'm, it's like I like to try out on why am I doing that? Why? Ask questions all the time. Why am I training well? Is that just because I'm getting fitter? Maybe, but I've just come out of Christmas and we didn't do a massive amount. We were in lockdown, etc. So maybe, or is it because I've started this way of moving my food around a little bit? So I basically done a little test. So 2 weeks in, I was testing around my running, and I was looking at actually do a, let's call it a fasted run in the morning, and then after 2 days I'll do a I'd run I'd make sure that I'm eating on my carbohydrate, fats, and protein. So I would do that, and the difference was it wasn't even a competition, and it was just for me. I was just thought all this time, and I've done it before where I've trained early in the morning and really struggled. Now I know why, because for me, training fasted just doesn't work for me. Whether that's a strength or whether that's an endurance type workout, it's not working for me. So now I'm on this sort of performance type, you know, way of eating, where I will eat, a high-ish carb meal, or I'll have, for me it's a smoothie, because it's easier to get in and digest, and obviously with a working day as well. So I'd usually train around about between 5 and 6 p.m. Pretty much most days, and I was having I'll have a smoothie with oats and things like that in it at around sort of 3:30, and that allowed me to be able to be super intensive. And I said this to you before we came on, is that I can now go into every session and be super intensive with that session.
Yeah.
And that means that when I do go into a rest day, and we all do it, I won't feel guilty about it, because I know that I've been super intensive in every single session, rather than being, well, I didn't really train too well. I didn't feel great on that session on Tuesday, and I'm supposed to rest on Thursday, but I won't, because that session Tuesday just wasn't.
Trying to
I didn't
make
feel
up.
great, so I'm gonna do something today as well, and then you just get into this cycle of just doing lots of things really crap, rather than a lesser amount really well.
Quality. Yeah.
Yeah, and the quality over quantity. And I was just getting the quantity in. And I think we're going to talk about training next week, around the quantity of training over the quality of training. And I think for me, this way of making sure that my food is being consumed at certain times is a really good way for me to make sure that I'm getting that quality in. And I'm still, in terms of my weight, I had a little bit of, like we all did, I had a little bit of Christmas weight. That's gone now. But ultimately, it's about how I feel. So I feel amazing during my training. Running. I do a lot of running. I do a lot of hill running now, and I actually done 2 hill runs. One at the start of this process, and I've just done one last week, so last Friday, a week yesterday, and the difference was incredible. Like, I was getting up that hill, didn't need to stop. Definitely didn't need to stop at the top. I was sprinting the last sort of 100 meters to finish it, and that for me is fantastic proof that, one, the food is working, but it also means that because I'm getting that quality of training now, it's allowing me to get fitter. Does that
Yeah.
make sense? So
Oh, yeah.
it's almost like a nice ecosystem that
Mm.
I was training every day, but I wasn't getting fitter. And that's
Yeah.
because I wasn't being intensive enough. I wasn't doing the right things. I was moving things out and putting other things in. Oh, I'm just not feeling that today. Oh, I'm going to do something different. And like, the program is key. The program's there for a reason. So
Yeah.
yeah, for me, that this performance/periodization, like you say, renaissance, whatever anyone wants to call it, carb backloading, even it's been a real game changer for me. So yeah, that's my sort of findings on that. My next question for you was, we spoke a little bit about social media and accountability last week, and
Yeah.
I think nutrition has a bit of a part to play in some of that as well. Um, even, and I don't want to get too deep into this, because it does, people have got different views on this, but even like the COVID situation,
Yeah.
and people, and people that are struggling more with this. When people are getting COVID, there are certain types of people that are struggling over others, and I
Yeah.
think there is a reason behind that when it comes to obesity, for an example.
Mm.
And again, we're not scientists, we're not professionals on that basis, so I don't want to get too deep into that. But just want to know your thoughts around social media, and what you think are the benefits and the negatives to social media when it comes to nutrition, because I've got a couple of views on that, and I'd like to hear yours. And then we'll just talk a little bit about accountability, and
Well,
which I can.
I think sort of accountability rolls in with that. I think social media can be good as an accountability. If you're telling people you're doing a certain thing, um, you could obviously inspire others to carry on eating well. If they see your results, they see what you're doing. That's what we found in the challenge, because there's a few of us in there.
Yeah,
We're able to push each other through those bad days, because everyone has a bad day where you feel
Yeah,
like,
of
oh, you
course.
know what, I'm just gonna. But if you know you're in a group, it's the group effect, isn't it? That's why group training's so good. You pull each other along, don't you? You're not on your own. You're with other people, and I think social media can be used as that kind of group effect, that community effect that
Definitely.
helps each other get through, or just stay on track. And I
Yeah.
think there's great ways of using social media to that. Setting up groups as in WhatsApp groups, or like you say on Instagram, putting up pictures of your meals, or just your results or whatever you're doing.
Yeah.
I think that it can be used as a positive side of things, and I think it is good for that. But on the negative side of things, I think we see things like people selling drinks. That's going to change the world. Going to change people.
Yeah.
The magic pill, should we say? The easy fix.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Nutrition's not an easy fix. It's what we talked about then. Look, you've got two people who do very similar training that have totally different, not views on nutrition, because we don't have totally different views on nutrition, but we have totally different
No.
ways of, of skinning that cat for us. You know,
Yeah. I
we've
think
got things that work differently for us.
we
Um,
both know that those two things are great ways of like you say skinning the cat. But for us personally, that's what's worked best.
yeah,
Back to that religion thing at the start, we keep going back to, but it's a really good way of explaining it. Is actually they are there's really great processes out there that you can use, and there's some really good tools that you can use, but it's what's best for you.
yeah.
Um, yeah. So
We say this. I say this quite often. Where you got to treat yourself and this goes with training. This goes with recovery. What works for me, like, wouldn't work for you, or won't work for someone else. You've got to treat yourself as your own laboratory, and you've got to trial and test things out on yourself. The good thing about this day and age, right? Um, there's so like you, there's so many things to your advantage. So you can have your blood work done. You can
yeah.
seek better knowledge, better help from people. There is people that out there who can help you. There is
Mm.
so much more to your advantage now. And I think, like we say with COVID, I sort of had I won't mention the person I had like I upset this week, and I didn't mean to upset them, but I was sort of frustrated because we were talking about COVID, and then we got to the fact that it was like, well, it's okay for you. You're healthy. I'm not healthy, and I was sort of like,
Yeah.
but health is your choice, and that's how I said like, you. Health is not something that's like, well, not we'll wind that back a bit. There is
Yeah.
people that do have,
Yeah.
obviously problems with their health through no choice of their own. But I mean, a general person who eats unhealthy, doesn't do exercise, doesn't do blah 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 blah, blah and knows
Yeah.
they're not healthy, has a choice.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
that's what I got to. I was like, there's nothing stopping you from being healthy, but you. So, and obviously, when you lay down the truth to some people, well, for most people, it does hurt because they know you're right, but they know they should be doing something about it. And I think the problem we've had COVID now in our life for a year, and we know that it attacks people. It has more of an effect on people with a lower immune system who's genuinely unhealthy. So
Yeah.
you've had a year to sort yourself out if you haven't
Yeah.
caught it already. So
Yeah.
I know that that'll upset a few people, but that is the truth. If you've got, like, not saying about the people that have got health issues, it is what it is, but
You're talking about controllable health, aren't you? Like,
controllable health, that's what I'm
yeah,
talking
like
about. You got it.
you bits that are in control, that the
If you're
things
in,
that you're in
you're
control
in
of. Yeah.
control of it. So let's
Yeah.
start taking responsibility and doing something about it.
Yeah. No, I can't agree more with that, mate, to be honest. I've been a real big banger of the drum when it comes to accountability for a lot of things, and I think this situation that we're in now is a big proof of that being accountable, stop blaming everyone else. stop excuses. If you're in control of your health, which that's people are, there are people out there that aren't, but there are a lot of people out there that are, that don't do anything about it.
Mm.
And it's a pain. People don't like talking about it because they feel like they're going to upset someone,
Yeah.
but I think you've got to crack a few eggs,
Yeah. Yeah.
to make an omelette. And I think it's realization, and it's real, and it's happening, and it's a massive issue in this country. And I think, unless we start talking about it more, I think it's not going to get any better,
Mm.
for the younger generation as we grow older. Because you mentioned there about social media. There's some really good parts of social media, some really bad parts of social media. What you will find with social media is there's a lot of education on there, not that maybe we didn't have when before the life of social media. So even just things like healthy meal options, even just the people on there, the people that are actually giving out relevant information, people that are offering free workouts, that type of stuff now is available in your hand. It's not like before where you had to join a gym, or you get out. Not a lot of people like going and running. There's so many things out there now that can help you and assist you. I think, again, this might upset a few people. There's no excuse now. There is absolutely no excuse now, unless if it's controllable health. There's no excuse. I
Mm.
can understand if it's uncontrolled, it's completely out of your control if there's something wrong, but a controllable health issue, there is absolutely no excuse. And yet people need to start taking accountability, and people need to start understanding that they have a responsibility to themselves to be healthy. And we've been chatting, and this is going to, we've been chatting a lot about saving the NHS over the past 12 months. And
Mm.
I absolutely 100% stand on that.
Yeah.
But we're saving the NHS by making sure we don't go out and we don't contact and all those types of things, because obviously from the COVID situation. But we're not saving the NHS when it comes to things like obesity, because people aren't being accountable for themselves. And I know that might be a bit of a strong statement, but I truly believe in that we need to start, if we want to start talking about saving the NHS, let's start looking at inside, personally, and that might start to answer a few questions.
Yeah. Yeah, like you say, it's a touchy subject and it upsets a few people. But at the end of the day, it's it's your own health, and if you have some control over it, as in it's not being forced upon, bad health being forced upon you, like you say, controllable health, then it's time to take control of that, take responsibility. That yeah, I am doing less and eating more. I need to switch that process round. Even if it's just a slow start. We talked about fear last time,
Mm,
and about how you know that potentially you could be putting yourself in a bad situation if you continue to go down that road that you're on. Then use that fear to not just give in, but as a way of getting yourself back on track, and just trying to change your lifestyle. You have to change your lifestyle. What you're doing now isn't working. So,
yeah.
and take control of your health. Be responsible. Yes, it is your fault. Get on with it. Change it.
Yeah, no, that's great. I think that a good starting point for that, and we're just going to very touch this briefly, is calorie counting, macro counting.
Mm.
Yeah, so there's a few tools out there. I think the biggest one, the most well known, is MyFitnessPal.
Yeah.
So I see that as a really good start. Just, and so from my experience, I would. So if I go on this, when, for example, when I first started training with you, Ray, and the gym, it's all about, yeah, let's get massive. Do you know what I mean? Like it's although we would, I don't know why we thought that, because we were obviously in a CrossFit environment, which yes, you could still put on lots of good weight, but ultimately you're anyway. So and basically what we would do is we would eat whatever we wanted, and we'd be bringing into the gym bloody bottles of Gold Top and mixing that with our protein shakes at the end of the class and all that sort of stuff to get extra calories in. But what I actually found out is that as much as I was eating, I wasn't actually eating enough. because I'd put it into my fitness pal. I go, oh, I've still got 400 calories today. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. So, and what I'm trying to get at is that macro counting, calorie counting can work both ways.
Yeah.
So it could be really good for obviously weight loss, because you're starting to understand the food that's going into your body, and macronutrients even more important because you can understand, how much is actually going in. Like calories is one thing, but getting your macronutrients and making sure that you're getting the right macros in your body is also very, very key, especially like I said, for what I'm doing when it comes to having that higher carb sort of recovery. So putting on weight and and losing weight, I think, when it comes to calorie counting, you need to have something, because you can sit there and go, oh, I'm eating this and I'm having this whole pizza and I'm going to eat these donuts and I'm going to try, I really want to put on some weight, and I'm going to eat all this pasta and whatever else. But actually, if you put it actually into your my fitness pal, your calorie counter, you go, oh, actually, by the time I've put that in, it's only like 2,300 calories, and I'm you know, not me, I'm a 6 foot, 6 foot, you know, 90 kilo guy. That's not going to do it, especially if I'm still training. So I
Yeah.
think that's a good start.
Yeah, I think you're bang on, and it goes for, like you say, losing weight as well as putting on weight. So if you want to put on, what we see, or I've seen in the past, and I see quite often, is people say they want to put on weight, and then I just see them like they're either just eating everything they can see. Okay, they're
Yeah,
not bothered about it. Just chucking calories in. Okay, so not thinking about the health side of things. You've got to have a think about how that's going to have effect on you. Obviously, your insulin levels, you know what I mean, your cortisone levels, putting stress on your body like that. Again, it should be progressively. So each week, just add a little bit more on. So you put on
yeah,
the good weight. I think they
yeah, yeah,
say probably about 2 to 3 pounds a week is probably like healthy. Same as losing weight as well. That is like, if you're losing more than 2 to 3 pounds a week, unless you're a really big person, then you're starting to eat away at some of the muscles. And obviously the same going the other way, you're putting on fat rather than putting on muscle. So it needs to be done, and gradually. And MyFitnessPal or apps like that can help you just monitor what you're bringing in or taking out compared to what
yeah.
your output. Okay, so that needs to be really thought about. Um, like you say, there's a lot of times you see guys saying, "Oh, you're going to put weight." They're chucking food down and then probably not eating for another like 4 or 5 hours,
Yeah, yeah.
and then still overall that day not getting enough calories in.
I definitely think that there's
Definitely the
the
right calories as well.
yeah, I think that's the thing, is eating just for the sake of eating. Like you say, if you're eating, you know, I don't know, let's say 2,500 calories, which, if you're trying to put on a bit of weight, probably isn't going to be enough. But if you're eating that, but you're only eating, you know, you're eating 10% protein because you're not getting decent enough protein in your body, that's you're missing out on a very important
Yeah, yeah. Your
macronutrient there. And I think
macronutrients have to be
you have to get
balanced
those
out.
balanced out. Yeah. So I think that's why I would always suggest to anyone is get a really good, I use my Fitness Pal. I
Yeah,
use the premium version because it really helps me, and because I have different days. So if I have for example, like a double training day, I add some extra calories in for that day to make sure that I
yeah,
don't obviously drop too much weight. So, the nice thing with my Fitness Pal is it allows me to do that. I don't have to adjust it manually. I can just go, right, actually, Sunday is my double training day, for example. So that's now set to have more calories in than maybe Monday, which is just a single training day.
yeah.
Um,
And I
so
don't think you have to track it all the time. I think if you tracked it for, like, I always suggest people track it for a couple of weeks.
yeah, yeah,
When you find that you start eating roughly around about, you've got an idea of what food looks like, as in portion wise. That what a day looks like. Oh, that is, and
yes,
you can start estimating it rather than doing it all the time. And then if you do have a certain
measuring
day,
everything. Yeah,
where you think, well, I'm not sure, and plug that in just to keep yourself accountable.
yeah.
But I think you do need to do it for 2 weeks solid to really see how a day looks, how a week looks, in the right amount of calories that you should be eating.
It starts to become a habit as well. Like you start to get to a point where, like you said, you mentioned there about putting it in, you get to understand the day, but also a habit in when you eat, and at what times, because you go, oh, I'm that's handy. I'm due a meal now, rather than just, oh, I'm just going to eat when I'm hungry.
Eat for the
You're
second,
eating rather than just, you sort of, you put in your snacks, you put in your lunch, you put in your dinner. For me, the way I work it is I put it all at the start of the day, and I almost knew it. It's like my menu. I go, oh yeah, cool. I've got this. You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
it's almost
That's
like
the
my
best
own
way to do it.
ready-made menu ready for the day. You go, oh yeah, cool. Right, okay. I need to make this for lunch, and I'll have, and I'll sit and make it
And that
based
way,
off what my menu
and
says.
that way you don't get to the end of the day and go, oh, I'm missing this. I've done it before. You can get to the end of the day and you'd be like, right, I need 10 grams of protein, but I need
Yeah,
20 grams of fat or something like that, where you just cannot balance that out.
you can't get into a
Something
meal.
stupid like
No,
that. Yeah. So it is always good to plug it all through the day. And like you say, use it as a menu and know it's all going to fit when you come to the end of the day.
you just end up eating like random stuff, don't you? Like you just eat like like half a bagel, three and a half tomatoes,
Yeah.
half a protein shake. You just like, quick, how am I going to, what I mean? And it just doesn't. It's just not sustainable that way. It's very much you need to, I say, do it at the start of the day, gets it all balanced in. You get good balanced meals that way as
Yeah.
well, so you're not just overeating at the end of the day or even under eating. So, but
I
yeah,
think,
my fitness pal.
yeah, try that, guys. It's definitely worth tracking and seeing, like you say, accountability. You see what you're eating, what you're not, and just give you a bit of an idea whether you're losing
Yeah.
or putting weight on, trying to put weight on.
So one last thing
Yeah,
is we talk about having a meal that we I hate saying this, cheat meal. I hate saying the word cheat meal, and
yeah,
I think there's a reason behind that. Is I don't like the fact that you're looking badly upon food, because it's not. Because if it fits into you know if it fits into your dailies, your daily food count and macros and calories, those types of things, it's not really a bad food. I think it's just about being sustainable with what you eat. You can't eat it every day. But so a quick overview of what I do when it comes to having something maybe a little bit of a break from the norm, or have something a little bit like, do you know what, I fancy a takeaway. I fancy something a bit different, or
yeah,
like 2 weeks ago, it's my birthday. We ordered in some food rather than preparing food ourselves. But what I'd done that day is I put it into my fitness pal and I counted it. So it allowed me to sort of go, well, I'm not eating all of my calories that day and then still having a big takeaway at night. So I'm still fully in control. But what it allowed from the mental side of it is I enjoyed it, and I didn't feel, you get that like guilt of like, oh, do you know what? Why did I do that for? I didn't need to do that. But so just as a tip, if you are going out for dinner,
not
when
like
when
me.
when are we going to do that? But like if you are doing that, pretty much every restaurant now is sat into some of these calculators, and you could. So yeah, just a little tip that rather than eating all your calories and then having a takeaway, put it into your, and then
Yeah,
you can enjoy it a little bit more, a little bit sort of guilt free, if that
yeah,
makes sense.
yeah. And even if you do tip over a little bit, you can sort of make that up over the week period rather than trying to make
Yeah,
it up over that day.
that's a great shout.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, you can definitely like get that back. Do you know what I mean? If you're worried about because you went over maybe 200 or 300 calories, don't try to get that back the next day. Just try to get that back gradually over the week.
Yeah,
Over a week period, it probably didn't even touch you. As long as you're only doing it once, you're not doing it every night. You'll be fine. And like you say, you don't want to be like using it as a treat. I'm treating myself. Do you know what I mean? Or feel guilty about it. You just want to like, sometimes you don't want to cook. You want a bit of an easy, and there's nothing wrong with that whatsoever.
yeah,
You should be able to do that.
absolutely,
Um,
absolutely.
I think the other thing as well, like you say, put that in there, put that in MyFitnessPal. One thing that doesn't, people will just quickly go on this before we go into sleep, is alcohol. people drink alcohol and then don't
Yeah.
account that. So try accounting that one time and just seeing how many calories you are putting in. I had a client before who said he wasn't losing weight, and then we found that obviously they wasn't accounting for the beers that we're drinking at the weekend, and that's a
Big one.
massive one. But yeah, we won't go too much into that. But just like I say, again, it's about being a bit honest, being a bit accountable to yourself.
Yeah.
But yeah. Sleep, mate. Let's quickly get on sleep before, because we could carry on nutrition for
I know.
days.
So easy.
So just one on sleep, really. We won't, like, again, we're not experts, but sleep is another one that sits there and gets ignored when really it's one of our, I think, one of the most important things we can have. Along with nutrition, I think they sit right next to each other for health reasons. Like, if you're not getting enough sleep, what you find is then you start, your nutrition goes out the window straight away, because then you start having sugar, caffeine, and stuff like that, just to get your energy levels back up again, and then you start this roller coaster. So sleep, what we would say is sleep is one of those. I would almost say that fundamental, that pillar that we build everything on top of.
Yeah.
And if that's swept away, everything else starts falling down. You find that your training will be affected. Like we say, your nutrition will be affected, your work ethic, everything, your concentration, everything starts to fall.
Definitely.
So getting sleep, what is optimal? What is what we're looking at? I personally think anywhere between 7 and 8 hours is a good starting point. Everyone's different. You'll find that younger males, like teenagers, will need more, obviously, hormones. But for the majority of us, about 7 or 8 hours, and that's what we should be trying to plan for. What's your thoughts on the sleep?
Yeah, no, I find that sleep for me is a big one. So when it comes to energy levels, if I know I've had a good, and I usually know when I first wake up in the morning, like how I wake up will depend on how I've slept, and that's probably the same for a lot of people. But I'll wake up and go, do you know what, I'm ready for the day, and I'm right up for it. Or I'll wake up and go, bloody hell, where's that coffee pot? And that tells me how I've slept that day. So a couple of things you can do. So a couple of things I do now is try not to watch too much TV before I go to bed. So we have got a TV in our room, but we try not to have it on to fall asleep, if that makes sense. That's a really good way to just get things, because you fall asleep with a TV on, you end up waking yourself up sort of after 2 hours having to turn it off. So there's a little tip there. Another quick tip, actually, which is going to be hard for some people because of kids. And I'm quite lucky. I say I'm lucky, but I haven't got children yet. So I'm lucky in this respect, in the fact that I can nap. So in terms of say like a Sunday afternoon, after a walk, or sometimes on a Saturday, sometimes I'd have a little nap. Now, don't if you can nap, don't think, oh my God, I shouldn't nap. No, I shouldn't nap. Your body needs it. So if you do feel like you're tired and you need to go and have a lay down, set an alarm, because what that will do is go, right, I'm going to get an hour in. Just set an alarm, or something that's going to just go, right, I can just get an hour, just to get that, because your body obviously needs it. And I've found that just making sure that if I do feel like I do need to go and have, like, I am tired enough to go, right, I need to go and lie down, and it's very rare, but if I do, it's usually after a long training week, I get a bit more like that, a bit more sort of body tired, and I'll just set an alarm and just go, right, I don't want to be asleep for 3 hours, because I know what'll happen is I'll get to tonight and I won't get to bed until 1 o'clock in the morning. So if you feel like you want to go and have a nap, don't fight it. Just just be very clever with it, and just try not to, don't go and get into bed for sort of 3-4 hours in the afternoon, unless you've been out all night. But yeah, but that's just a couple of tips for me that have really worked for me anyway. And I know that's hard for people that have, kids and things like that, and families, and it's a bit different for me because I don't have that.
Yeah, I don't nap during the day. I don't find it better for me. But again, everyone's different.
Yeah,
But then again, I don't feel like I need it. So maybe that's a part of it. But I go to bed early, and this is what I tell my clients, that these certain things. First things I work on with them is like obviously sleep, nutrition, and mobility is the first things I look at with any client I have, whether that's remote or in the gym. But what I try to do is I go to sleep. No, sorry, I wake up at the same time every day, 7 days a week. I don't have a lay in. I don't feel like I need a lay in if I'm getting enough sleep. So I get up at the same time every day, and I find that makes me go to bed at the same time, and that then just sets me into a routine.
yeah,
And then I find if I have a lay in, like sometimes if I've had a lay in on the weekend on the Sunday, which I'll still do on a very rare occasion, then Monday is a nightmare to get up. I feel like, oh God, I need my routine. I'm a routine person. I thrive on routine, and I try to get my clients. That's where if they're struggling with sleep, I first take away the caffeine after midday, and then I'll also at the same time tell them to go and tell them to get up at the same time every day for a week, and then we take things from there. And I
yeah,
find that I am a morning person. I'm a morning lark, and you're either one or the other. A night owl or morning. So you do have, if you're a night owl, obviously get up a little bit later. I'm not saying that you have to get up early like I do. I'll get up at 4 o'clock, but that's because I go to bed at 9 or 8 or 9 o'clock. But if you are a late owl, night owl, then you still need to start at getting up at the same time, and that
yeah,
whatever
yeah.
fits your lifestyle. But if you get up at the same time, then you start getting tired at the same time, and then you start getting into a routine
Little cycle.
where you're going to bed at the same time and getting the right amount of hours in, which is at we're talking about 7 or 8 hours. I find if I have over 8 hours, I'm tired, and if
Yeah,
I'm
straight
under,
down.
I'm
Yeah,
tired.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, no, that's a really good point. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting how, um, yeah, again, it's almost like that nutrition thing. You know, different things work for different people, isn't it? Like,
Yeah.
what works for one doesn't necessarily work for someone else. But I think it's just getting into those habits. Like I said, with for us, like not watching TV
Mm.
before we go to bed. Like, we're just trying to make sure that's off, and not fall asleep with TV on. That's helped massively to just make sure
Yeah.
that we're staying asleep. And then, yeah, you say, for me, and getting up in the morning is pretty much now. I don't always need an alarm. I always have an
Mm.
alarm set, but because of that now, I don't really need
Yeah.
an alarm. And I actually think that sometimes what I eat during the day will be my sleep will very much be dependent on that. So
Mm.
if I have a bad day of food, for example, Christmas time when you're just eating fucking whatever you want, you tend not to sleep as well.
Mm.
So that's where you start to. So again, food, like you said at the start, food and sleep go hand in hand. If you eat
Yeah.
well and you got enough food, you're going to end up probably
Again,
sleeping a lot better.
again, I didn't realise that until I had children, until I had that disruptive sleep pattern where they'd wake you up in the middle of the night, and you'd only get like 2 or 3 hours in that day, that night. Sorry, I only realised then how both of them were connected so closely, because then I'd find out I'd grab a donut to boost my energy up, drink more
Yeah,
coffee,
sure.
just
Yeah,
trying to stay awake throughout that day, trying to be productive. But I wasn't.
yeah.
And you can't help that when you got kids. You go through
No,
that. But if when they are sleeping through, or when you are You haven't got children, you have some effect on that. And by
Yeah,
setting patterns, setting habits, again, we said habit. Once you set habits, it's easy to stick to them, isn't it? It just takes a little bit longer.
absolutely. Yeah, that's it. Like it's, it's like I said about the nap thing. Like I don't do it all the time. I just, it's just if I don't, like you say, I don't have kids, so it if I feel like I'm tired, it must have meant that I've not slept well that night before.
Mm.
So there's a reason for why I'm tired, and
Yeah, yeah,
there's usually two reasons. There's one, I've not eaten well, and I've not got the right food inside me, or two, I've not slept well.
yeah,
So it's just looking at those things, and I'm just making sure that I want to be on the ball all the time with work, with training, with Ellen. I want to make sure that I'm on the ball, and we're I don't want to have to get to like every single day and be like, "Do you know what, I need to go and have a lay down." and
yeah,
and the only times that happens is because I've probably not eaten well, I've not slept well. And
yeah.
they just go like that little ecosystem of making sure you do the right thing. So
Cool.
yeah, that's
I just
mate.
want,
Again, something else we could probably rattle
yeah,
on
I
around
know.
for.
Just touch on one more thing because I think this just needs to be before we wrap things up. Is alcohol. So a lot of people tend to rely, not rely on alcohol as an alcoholic, but maybe use alcohol to try to get themselves to sleep. And yes, it does. It will get you to sleep quicker, and you will go into a deeper sleep. But what we find is, or what the studies have definitely find, and there's plenty out there, is that it reduces your REM sleep, which is your rapid eye movement sleep, which is like you go through stages in your sleep patterns throughout the night, and
Yeah,
it's part of the cycle and part of what's needed. Um, where alcohol will just take you straight into a deep sleep, and then you'll find that maybe you'll wake up in the middle of the night, or you know whatever. Even if you feel that you slept all night, you wouldn't have had the quality sleep that you need, and that's probably why you'll find on the after the next day you're hungover, not only dehydrated, but you feel absolutely knackered. And
yeah,
that's how I felt in the past. Definitely feel absolutely knackered, and I feel like I've slept 8 hours. Why do I feel knackered? Because you haven't had that sleep cycle that you need so much. And we don't want to go deep into that because we're going to have to wrap things up. But that's just something that it definitely needs. I just felt like we need to mention that before we do
yeah,
close things up. Um,
yeah. Brilliant.
so people are aware of that as well.
Yeah, no, that's a
Yeah,
good way to end, mate. Just making sure that, like you say, people are doing the right things. And guys, hopefully you've enjoyed
yeah,
our little take on nutrition and sleep. As I say, we are the first to sit here and say that this isn't um, our qualified profession in terms of nutrition fully, but we're talking about our experiences, what's worked for us, what's worked for our clients, and actually the fact that lots of different things work for lots of different people. So yeah, keep uh, keep up the good fight.
yeah. And like everything, guys, just keep an open mind to everything and try things out on yourself. Like me and Daddy, we'll always keep it. Like I still I really enjoy intermittent fasting. I know that, but I still an open mind to everything else and understand that everyone's different.
Yeah,
So yeah, and there's plenty of information out there, guys. Just make sure you're looking in the right places. Let's say it's a bit of a minefield, but yeah, thanks for listening,
cool.
guys. I can't appreciate it enough. Hopefully, you look forward. Well, we look forward to our next one, which is training smart. So that we're going to cover recovery. We'll cover training over 40. So my experience of training over 40, and yeah, we're just going to be touching on everything we can to give you as much information on your training on the next episode.
Yeah. Again, guys, if you've got any questions, queries, thoughts, if there's things you like, we did say we're going to do 3 specials. We're coming up to obviously our final one next week, but if you feel there's something you want us to talk about, we love doing these. We love trying to help if we can. So please just sort of drop us a line on the Legion Report podcast at Instagram, and then we'll try and pick that up and make sure that we're talking about relevant subject. But for now, it's goodbye from me.
Stay strong for me. See you next week.